Hey, what's up, everybody? Downtown. Gotta go to Bronx now. Nice little trip up the Bronx. It's telling me to take First Avenue, but I'm not taking that. That's a no-go on that. First Avenue is a definite no-go. Alright, here we go. Looks like someone took a spill over there. That ice, there's ice all over that thing. And I saw that before. There's ice everywhere. I don't know. Maybe, oh no, okay, it's a fire trucks. There's something going on here. Those cops were eyeing me big time. I was hoping they weren't going to jump out in front of me or something. But they were definitely eyeing me. I don't think they were just admiring the bike, probably. Because I didn't even want to look at them because, you know, I don't usually deal with NYPD at all. Like nothing. Zero. But, you know, I do notice, though, that when there's a bunch of them in one place, they do feel kind of emboldened and they just, like, will do stuff that's very unexpected, like jump in front of you. You're like, pull over right now, like, you know, just some stuff like that. And you got, you know, at that point you got no choice, you know. If a police officer jumps in front of you and you need to go through him to get around, or you can't go around him, you know, it turns into a bullshit call, a bullshit ticket to something more serious. So I wouldn't recommend that, but you know, there's a time and place for everything. definitely a time and a place. Like certain times where you're just gonna, there's a cop over on this corner and he's waving to you. I don't see you. I don't know nothing, man. I'm just going on my way. I'm minding my business. I'm not doing anything wrong. Something like that. That's more doable. But how many times am I gonna hit those fucking manhole covers on 3rd Avenue? I mean, you guys have seen me hit those things millions of times. Yeah, like I was saying before, there is a time and a place for everything. Like I had a situation one time. I was on the BQE and I was just splitting, minding my business, and there was another scooter right to the next lane over doing the same thing. And this highway cop like just got it under a bug in her ass that she jumped out of her car. I mean, there was just she was nowhere near me, but she started running, trying to pull me over, and I was like, it's not even pulling me over. She was on foot in the middle of the highway, attempting to give me a ticket for, improper lane change, which I wasn't even doing. But because that's the only ticket they could give you. But it's open for interpretation. Same thing in California. Before they specifically made lane splitting legal, but when they specifically made it lane splitting legal, it did open up other tickets that you could get. Like a police officer can use discretion to write you up for things that might be in their discretion. Like let's say you're unsafe distance from another motorcycle, or unsafe speed for conditions. Let's say it's windy. It's all open for interpretation. So if a California Highway Patrolman pulls you over, that was one thing I didn't like. Like in New York, my interaction with NYPD, when it happens, which is like once every 3 years, there'll be some kind of sting where they're pulling over every bike that's coming up the road. When they have something like that, my interaction with them has been pleasant and no issue at all. It just, it is what it is. But the XR can fit through this, but KLR's not going to fit. But my interaction with NYPD has, when it happens, it's like once every 3 years if I get pulled over, and almost 99% of the time I'm not getting a ticket. But that 1%, if it is some kind of sting where they're pulling over every bike, you're gonna get a ticket. But what I didn't like about California was my interaction with law enforcement almost inevitably always turned into a very unpleasant experience. Whether it be LAPD, California Highway Patrol. LAPD actually made me nervous because I thought, I got the impression they were ready to like rip me off the bike and throw me on the ground. Whereas California Highway Patrol was just so official. It was nothing to be said. You're gonna get a summons, for something, whether you like it or not, But that's Highway Patrol. But well, that's a good way. No, just punch through all that traffic there. But anyway, my experience was never pleasant with police in California. They were so rough and so like on edge with LAPD that You know, I was with a bunch of friends one time. They made us get flat on our stomachs. You know, we weren't even bothering anyone, but we were a group of bikers together, and they said we have to ask you, you know, get off the bike, get on the ground, put your stomach flat on the ground, put your hands on your side. And it was strange, you know. Now, I've never experienced something like that here in New York. You know? NYPD, basically, if you're on a motorcycle, though, you know, it would only be if they were doing some sort of some kind of massive sting operation where there was just like 30 cops all standing there on the road, and we're just going to pull over every bike, and then everybody's getting a ticket for something. That does happen once in a blue moon here. I've not seen that, though, in 3 years. Once in a while they'll do like a sting thing where they tow every bike in the city too. Every single bike, no matter where it's parked, they're gonna cut the lock and tow it. You know, because they would you know, that's what they do sometimes. And they cut every single lock on the bike, whether you have a disc lock, whatever, it's all getting cut. And then the bike's going into the tow lot, and it's quite expensive actually. But that I haven't seen. That's like once every 6 years. And I think what they do, the reason they do that is because New York City does, I have to say, I mean, I don't mind motorcycles being on the sidewalk, but up in Harlem they get inundated. Wow, that was a fucking huge hole. Up in Harlem, they get inundated with bikes, you know, on the sidewalks. You know, and when they do, they actually need to do something about it, you know, because it just gets way out of hand. I have to admit. I mean, and then what happens is you'll have people lock bikes up, like onto a sidewalk, and they'll just leave it there for months, like, could be 6 months. Like there was one bike, when I used to live up in Harlem, there was one bike there for a year, you know, and it was covered nicely. Somebody was checking on it. You could see, like, it wasn't complete. Sometimes you'll see bikes that are abandoned, you know, but they're locked up. So the city has to go around and clean it all up. And the problem is regular bikes get caught up in that sting because they don't differentiate between anything. They just, every single bike that's on the sidewalk is getting cut and removed. And that's what happened to me up in Harlem, because in Harlem I couldn't park in the street because there were just too many people coming around. But you know, they started ticketing for being on the sidewalk even though you weren't in any obstruction at all. And once they started doing that, I had no choice. I had to start parking in the street again. But when they did that, it was, you know, that's how my VR650 got stolen, because you know, I was parked in the street, and I knew something bad was going to happen, because you know, that thing was in the street every day up in Harlem, and you could see where people were picking away, touching, prying. You know, there was just constantly every night something going on. Like, just even the phone mount was gone when they come back. A simple little phone mount would be gone. Charge cable for the phone, that would be gone. Somebody was just picking away at stuff. Somebody was sitting on the bike and just saying, oh, I need this, I'll take this. Oh, this fucker left this, and I'm going to take that. And they just start taking things. And they would take a lot of things from you, you know, from the bike. Phone mounts and just about anything that they could tear off the bike. So I wasn't too happy about that. But now where I'm parked is safe. But you know, the city doesn't really often do that kind of a crackdown. But when they do, like I was talking to one guy in Brooklyn, he said I parked my bike legal, but I had the chain going from the street to a post, and they towed it anyway. So I think when they do that enforcement, they're not looking at really anything except it's just a motorcycle we're going to tow. We've been told to take all bikes today, and they go around with those trucks and they just take as much bikes as they can get. They didn't seem to be too rough with it, but how would you know anyway with a KLR? I mean, you could bounce that thing around. It wasn't like a sport bike. I don't know if they did something to it, if they bounced it around or not. Kickstand looked okay. And nicely enough, they cut a link out of the chain, left the lock on it, and put it in the cover. Because I had the bike covered, they put everything with the cover and put it all together. So I was able to, you know, get my lock back and use it that night. Because leaving a bike unlocked in Harlem, I mean, I think now from what I've learned about parking in Harlem, because I never lived in Harlem before. I've lived in Brooklyn, Queens, and Midtown, but never uptown in Harlem. And I didn't realize that even just one night without a lock was basically the end of your bike. Like, I got home at like 10 o'clock at night and my lock was stolen, which is probably a plot, but I talked about that before in a video. And I think if you live up in Harlem and you come back and the lock that you use to the post that you always lock it to is gone, then your best bet would be to run to Home Depot and get a lock. If you can't get one that night, don't park where you always park. You'd want to go somewhere else, because somebody's watching you, probably anyway. I mean, unless it's one of those cleanup things the city's going around, because they do that once in a while too, where they clean all locks off of posts. And they get bicycles too. Well, I've seen them come around and take legitimate, like a guy was by 14th Street there, and he went into TJ Maxx. I saw him. You know, I was sitting on my bike, texting somebody, and waiting for a job to come through. This guy came by, locked his bike on a post, legitimately, no problem. You know, you can't leave your bike, not locked to a stationary object in New York, because someone's going to be picking away at it. And he had locked it through the wheel and everything. It was a legit lockup. He went into TJ Maxx on 14th Street, and these dudes pulled up from the city, grinded his lock off, and took his bike and the lock. And I was like, wow. And I asked him, what, you know, if you don't mind me asking, what do you guys, you know, what's your work here? And they said, well, we're cleaning up the sidewalks, you know, from abandoned bikes and locks. I said, that's not abandoned. The guy just went into TJ Maxx, and they said, nah, we're taking everything, you know. And he basically took the lock off, grinded the lock, and took the bike. And that was the end of that. He did not even entertain what I was saying about the fact that the bike is not abandoned. He said that, you know, that he didn't even listen to me. So, and usually those guys won't, you know, because they got a job to do. They're going around getting thousands of bikes, you know, clearing them off the streets, and that's what they do. Yeah, so they come around, they cut off locks. So if you do come back, though, you can't take a chance in thinking that it might be the city. What you need to do is park your bike probably in a garage that night, or go pick up a lock if it's still early enough. Go to a 24-hour. I don't think there is any more 24-hour Home Depots or anything, but you'd be best to get a lock. I keep extra locks in my house now because I can't afford a situation where someone took the lock and then I'm gonna be fucked, you know, because it's just too dangerous. I mean, you have to have your bike locked to a stationary object, because bicycle or motorcycle, because, and if you can bring your bicycle inside somewhere, you'd be better off, because, you know, they're gonna, if they come if they come around at night, which they always do, you know, and you know these people drive all around the city, and when they come around, you got to be ready, like with your bike ready, locked up, and ready to go. You know, if you're not ready for them, they're gonna take your shit, and you're gonna be out of luck, man. I mean, that's basically what's gonna happen. You know, and then when they do come around at night, they do sometimes come with grinders, or you know, they do smart shit, like if your back wheel is locked to a post, they'll take your axle out. If it's a nice enough bike, you know, they did it on my XR. They take the rear axle out, slide that out, bring it, you know, put it in their bag, and then they're gonna they'll try to lift the wheel over the, they'll have it stand on somebody's shoulder and lift the wheel over the post, then bolt it back on. You know, I don't know how these guys think they can get away with that at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I guess they just assume people are asleep. Like, you know, when my phone is ringing at 3 o'clock in the morning and my GPS alarm is going off, I'm running outside, and you don't want to catch me in my underwear out there, you know, because that's going to be quite strange, you know, if I come out like that, and it's going to happen, you know, and it does happen. Alrighty, buddy, I'm going to stop this here, but because I got to check something on my phone, and then what I'll do is I'll do another video going to Bronx. I'll continue it. Maybe I'll splice it up or something. See everybody in the next one.